We now have the nicest mustache that's ever been in the Smith hole. Dave
There
Dyer,
you go.
how are you?
Can we? I swore. Can we swear?
Yeah, this is pretty. This is pretty freewheeling.
Okay.
This is pretty freewheeling.
Yeah, I grew the mustache. I used to have a beard.
Yeah.
Remember, I've had different variations of facial hair, but a few years ago, I became an on-call firefighter, and so you can only have a mustache because our masks on our air packs have to be able to make a tight seal to your face, so you can't have a full beard.
It is. I mean, it looks like you put a lot of time and effort into it. Like, I mean,
tons, but like Tom Selleck.
It comes in really full and nice. I
Yeah.
tried a mustache once and it was just stupid looking.
Well, you have to start with the canvas. So, I mean, you're already stupid looking. So, your mustache.
Yeah, it didn't
You guys
fill
are
in really
brothers.
well. Yeah.
Well, you know what you have to do. I mean, sometimes it just doesn't come in thick enough, but you have to. There's like a 3 or 4 week wall that you have to get through. Like I've tried growing them a few times, and you get to 3 weeks, and you go, "I look like a moron," and I may still look like a moron, but you have to kind of push through that, and then once you get to about 5-6 weeks, and it starts to fill in, you're like, "All right."
It wouldn't work for me because this
too
is
blonde.
about
Very
about
blonde.
as long as it gets anyway.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Even if you let it grow, it doesn't get any longer than that.
Not that I've noticed, and I just let it go for the most part.
That sounds like a vitamin deficiency, Levi.
It probably is.
So,
I take vitamins.
Although now he's getting on. He's getting towards your level of fitness, which you started how long ago?
well, I was in good shape up through my early 30s, and then I was not in good shape for a long time. And I actually still lifted, but I just ate horribly and didn't do any aerobics or anything or nothing like that. And then about 6-7 years ago, I just said, you know what? I don't want to die. I got to get back in good shape. And I just started working out real hard again. So
What's that mindset? Because I feel like he's similar. He finally has said, rather than just think about it and say, I'm close to it, which in my head, I'm close to it. But when you get to the decision finally where you're like, all right, I'm not making excuses. I am going to do this. And, what's that
for me,
process?
The biggest thing was that I didn't want, I was 45 years old, and I'm like, there's a ton of stuff I want to do, and I don't want my physical fitness to be a barrier to accomplishing some of the things I want to do. And so I said, I'm just going to work hard, I'm going to get back in shape, and I'm going to eliminate that as a reason why I can't do something. So that was really it. And I just wanted to live. So
How often, how long are you working out a day? How many hours are you working out a day?
probably hour and a half.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the most. I usually I've got a dog who's a great motivator. He's a 3-year-old Border Collie Australian Shepherd. Needs to go all the time.
Yeah.
So we run or walk every day. And I'll usually do that for anywhere from 45 minutes, and then usually do some sort of lifting or high intensity workout a little later on or something. So, but he's a great motivator, because I'll tell you, 6:15 every morning, he's right here. He's right here going, I want to do something. Let's move.
The only thing my dog is motivated for is food. So
Yeah.
I mean, she's a Chihuahua. She's a well-proportioned Chihuahua.
Yeah.
But man, does she want to eat all the time?
I've
You're not
never
going to run with her, though, are you?
No.
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 She'd just spend all her time barking at people and trying to kill them.
Yeah.
As much as she can as a 10-pound dog.
Yep.
She's the biggest little glutton that I've ever seen. It's almost comical. If she gets into something, she'll eat and eat and eat until her middle is this big around.
Is she fat? Is she round?
No, she's a very well-proportioned dog.
Good metabolism.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, are you at the point now where are you getting addicted to working out? Because that's a thing.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I'm not like a freak where I try to talk everybody else into working out, but I love feeling good. And,
Yeah.
I'm 51 years old, and I want to keep feeling good, and I want to feel good for a long time. So, I mean, I take days off. There are days, maybe with my schedule or whatever that I can't do it, but I love feeling good. I love feeling healthy.
So, what is it?
This sounds almost like an intervention. Are you guys trying to make
No,
me stop?
no,
working
not
out,
at all.
Smitty, or what's
No, not at all. I
There's
work
going to be
out.
somebody coming through the door here with like a bunch of Twinkies any minute?
No,
I work out for an hour to 2 a day.
Yep.
And I mean, I really started to get into it probably February-ish.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you said,
What have you lost?
I've only lost probably 20 pounds.
Yeah, but
Still,
you're
it's
adding
since then.
muscle.
Yeah, I like in the past when I've worked out, it's been super cardio focused. So I lost. Plus, I was not an old a-hole like I am now, 38 years
Yeah.
old.
38.
But
Talk about old a-holes. 51.
but oh, what was I saying? Yeah, now that I'm more balanced as far as cardio and lifting is concerned, I have to maintain the focus because I'm not seeing as quick of a weight loss as I have in the past.
But you're getting stronger.
I'm getting
the weightlifting.
way stronger.
Yeah.
So
you can feel that.
I like the way
then.
he looks at you when he says, I'm getting way stronger.
Oh no,
he knows.
I was telling my co-host Tim a couple of weeks ago. I said whenever Levi and I have tussled, it's usually been fairly playful. But whenever we've tussled in the past, like I feel like because I'm the older brother, I've had a mental edge over him. It's been 20 years since we've done anything remotely like that. I said I don't even want to try and mess with that now because I'm going down quick. Going down quick. So how long have you been firefighting? Like 2 years? You said
3 years.
3
About
years?
3 years now. Yep. October will be 3 years. That again was another thing that I just was. I was 49 years old, and the kids were out of the house, and I'd always wanted to do some military service after college. I never did. I always regretted that I didn't do it. But yet the township I live in was hiring on-call firefighters, and I thought this is a way I can still serve and still do something. And because I'm on call, we go on a fair amount of calls and we do shifts at the station periodically and things like that. But I'm not tied to it like a full-time firefighter, so I could still do my comedy and be able to travel and do stuff like that. So it was kind of the best of both worlds. I was able to go on the road on the weekends and do my stuff, and then during the week when I'm home, I can, go to calls and do things like that. And it's seriously one of the best decisions I've ever made. I absolutely love it. I love the department I'm with. The guys are just great, and it's fun being part of that, that thing where when you drive up in that big red truck, you can just tell there's a sense of calm that comes over people. They're thrilled that help is there, and I love being part of that. It's been just great.
I mean, the community aspect's huge. You mentioned that. How long was it? You said you're doing it 3, 4, 5 days a week. So I don't know. Did you have an oh shit moment? Like you went on call. I don't want to say you didn't have a realistic viewpoint of what you were going to be doing with the fire department, but that moment where you were like, oh, this is real. I understand what I'm doing now.
Well, I tell you what, it was not a no shit like any sort of regret or apprehension, but 2 weeks after I was out of the academy, I was at the station doing some training with one of our full-time guys, and we got a call for a structure fire, and it was a basement fire in a house. So 2 weeks out of the academy, I'm going into a basement, which if there's any firefighters who listen and anybody else who doesn't know, that's one of the more dangerous types of fires. A basement fire in a home is a very dangerous fire because there's only one way for the air and the smoke to go, and that's up the stairs, and that's right where you're going down. Plus the fact that if it's intense enough, it's compromising the integrity of the floors above you. There's a ton of things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
Also, the fuel load in a basement's usually huge because that's where people store a ton of shit. And so there's a lot of stuff that can catch on fire in a basement usually. So anyway, 2 weeks after I'm out of the academy, I'm going into a basement on a basement fire. And even though you're in the academy, you do a ton of training with all your gear on and your air pack, you don't really do any live fire training like that. So you've been in your gear, but you really don't know what it's going to be like. And then you get in this smoky situation, you got your air pack on and everything, and you're breathing like, okay, I'm not breathing in any smoke. I can, I feel good. And so you sort of calm it, you calm down and you get in the right place and just your training kind of takes over. But it's, you got to remember you're in there with at least one other person, if not two. So you got help. And, but yeah, that was a good thing to happen, is to kind of be thrown into the deep end right away.
Does time slow down or does it speed up?
I think it kind of slows down, but in a good way. You kind of settle in and you think about what you have to do, and you think about, and you like in this situation, one of our sergeants was with us, so he was, letting you know what to do, and so that helped a lot. But it does kind of slow down a little bit, yeah.
I only had one firefighting experience. I was in the Army, and we were shooting at a range in Korea. Dry, hot, something like today, except super dry. Tracer rounds set the side of the hill on fire, so we all had to go put it out. It got dark. I've never fought a fire in my life. We're out there with shovels. It's getting dark, and all of a sudden there's flames around me. And I remember I like lost my footing on the side of a mountain, like slate, like moss covered slate or something. And I remember being airborne for like 2 seconds, and I thought I was dead. And I got up, and I'm like, oh,
So it was
okay,
like a
I'm never gonna fight a fire on purpose again.
So it was like a wildland. It was grass and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those things can, depending on the conditions, that can spread real quick.
It was so fast and so scary. I commend anybody that walks into something like that on purpose.
Well, that wildland firefighting, I mean, that's, you learn a little bit about that in the academy, but not a ton because we're structural firefighters. But man, that's tough stuff. That's hard work, those guys going out there and digging trenches and basically trying to cut stuff off and kill the fuel load and all sorts of stuff. That's hard.
Tell me about doing stand-up comedy in a pandemic.
Well, most of the shows I've done have been outside.
Yeah.
Because they can limit the number of people, they can spread people out, and that's just kind of what's going on right now. I've got a show this coming Thursday night it's all outdoors and everybody's kind of spread out, and it's tough. I mean, I've done some Zoom shows and stuff like that. Those actually weren't bad. After the first couple, you kind of get used to it. And with Zoom, there's that one view you can put on where you can at least see everybody. So you can't hear everybody, but you can see their reaction. So there's some sort of feedback. But man, it's tough. It's, some gigs are starting to come back now. Things are starting to get populated a little bit for the fall and early next year. I'm sure in the hopes that there's going to be a vaccine, but it's
you've had to have
slim
weirder
pickings.
Yeah, you've had to have weirder shows that when you were coming up. You've had to have weirder shows than anything during 2020.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's I was just actually telling someone earlier today. There's a gig that the agency I do a bunch of stuff for used to book in Painesville, Ohio, which is on the other side of Cleveland. And it was the most surreal experience. You'd walk into this place, and if you go to the left, there's a small old theater where the show is. If you go to the right, there's a bikini shop and tanning salon in Painesville, Ohio. Now, granted, they're close to Lake Erie, but I don't know how much you want to go swimming in Lake Erie. But just the fact that, on a comedy show, you can go to the left. If you're looking for a bikini and a good tan, you can go to the right. And it was just one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had in my life.
Probably a very diverse audience there.
Yes. Very.
You would say your comedy's mostly observational, life humor, kind of. You don't do a lot of current events or anything like that?
I don't. Now, I used to write a lot of that stuff because years ago, I used to contribute monologue material to Late Night with Jimmy Fallon before he was on The Tonight Show. So I used to write a lot of that stuff and still keep up on the news a lot. But you know what? Everybody's got their different point of view, their different angle. I don't do any of that stuff in my act. All my stuff in my act is kind of observational, fun, humor, because I look at it this way for my own personal show is that when people come to my show, I want them to forget about all that stuff.
Yeah.
When people watch the news and they're inundated with that stuff all day long. I look at it like, you know what, for 45 minutes or an hour, I want to take people away from that and just relax and have a good time and then send them back out in the world with that crap.
Especially now.
For a little bit, I want it to be an escape.
Mm-hmm.
Especially now, I feel like that's really, really important. You said you do follow the news. That brings me to the next thing, which is following the news now. Right now in history is one of the oddest things. Like I go through the entire news cycle every day for the morning show.
Right.
And it's just, I think we talked about it before. It's just picking and choosing anything that is not, riot related or protest related or COVID related, or just trying to find fun things to talk about on the radio show. Well, that's a challenge.
And there's no doubt, I mean, you can't deny, you can't look the other way. That stuff is going on. But you know what, the thing I get so frustrated with is there's got to be good things happening. Yeah. There have to be good things happening. And those stories are out there. It's just that the news outlets, they know what people are going to pay attention to. They're going to pay attention to the scary negative stuff. But there's people working on vaccines. There's people doing all kinds of stuff trying to get this thing solved. And You see some of that. I just don't think you see enough of it. The amount of stuff that like that comes out, pales in comparison to what you hear about all the negative stuff. So
Yeah, no, it's nice to be able to just pick out the positives, like you were saying.
yeah.
Tell me about the Idioms podcast.
Oh, that is something I just started a couple months back, and I know we talked about it last week or a couple weeks ago. It's something I wanted to do a podcast, but I thought I don't want to just, so there's a good buddy of mine in Grand Rapids, Adam Deggy, and we talked about doing one. I thought I wanted to be about something, specifically about something, a continuing, ongoing topic. And I love to read, and I love little cliches and idioms, and I love knowing what the origin of those things are. Because the funny thing, like when I start one of the things I always say in the beginning of all the episodes is I say, the idioms, those things we say in everyday conversation that sound completely out of place, but you know exactly what they mean by the way they're being used. And I always love how, even if you don't know the origin of an idiom, when somebody uses it in a sentence, it clicks. Well, I know what they're talking about.
Sure.
And so I love researching the history and the origin of some of them. And so they're 5 minutes long at the very most. I just keep them. They're super quick hits. And every episode, I take a different idiom, and I obviously make some jokes about it and talk about the usage of it, but then also just do a little history of where it came from, and they're fun. So the thing is, one of the catch lines I always say is laugh and learn in less than 5 minutes, and that's what it is. You're gonna have a laugh, and and it's one of those things you listen to and you're like, oh, I didn't know that's where that came from. Like the one I'm gonna be shooting tonight, and I'll upload for tomorrow, is Close But No Cigar. And so it's just sort of the history of where that came from, and so there you go. So it's fun.
I wish I could remember. I had one today for you, and I didn't write it down. I was, what the heck is it? Anyway.
Fridays will be 3 Sheets to the Wind. That's the next one I'm going to be doing.
Oh, 3 Sheets to the Wind. That's what I was looking up, 3 Sheets to the Wind. I'm not even joking. I was
Are you
looking
serious?
up,
That's the one?
I was looking up, we're thinking about doing a bit for a show.
Yeah.
And I was looking up synonyms, or is it antonyms for drunk? Is it synonyms or synonyms? Yeah. And 3 Sheets to the Wind. And I was looking up what that meant, and I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, that's going to be Friday's episode. So
spoiler alert! I won't tell you what it is. You got to watch videos.
I'm not going to tell you what Close But No Cigar means. But
how long have you been really interested in language? Because that's always something that's fascinated me.
Well, quite a long time, because I studied theater in college. I went to Michigan State. I studied acting and directing, so we had to read a ton. We had to read a ton of plays. We also had to take a lot of literature courses. So, and I think as far as the cliches and idioms and stuff like that, where my initial interest came about was I read and did a lot of Shakespeare in college. And if you just go Google, common quotes that we still use in everyday language that come from Shakespeare. There's tons of them. And just famous sayings that he had in his plays that we still use in our everyday vernacular, and so that kind of stuff just really interests me. That a lot of that stuff just stands the test of time. Wild Goose Chase is from one of his plays. There's just a ton of them, so that's probably where it started. Yeah.
You said you're 51. How long have you been doing stand up?
28 years, 27, 28.
So you were 22, 23?
About 24. I started.
24.
Yep.
What were you doing before that? What you said you went to school for theater?
For acting and directing.
Yeah.
Yep. I went out to Los Angeles for a little while, ran out of money, couldn't find a job.
Came home. Easy to do
How
there.
long did that take to run out of money?
Pretty quick.
Yeah.
About 6 months. And I was back. I couldn't. It was a horrible time with the economy. You couldn't find. I found one job, calling up people randomly and doing movie surveys.
Was that mid 90s?
Very early 90s,
Early
like
90s.
91.
Yeah, okay.
Nightmare. Just a nightmare. Everybody hanging up on you. It was awful. Don't call me again. So came back, met my wife. We got married, and then I started doing stand-up around here. And stand-up was one of those things I always wanted to do. It was always in the back of my head. I grew up loving stand-up and thinking, I really would like to try that someday. And then it was a situation where it was like, if I don't try it, I'm never going to do it. So then I started going to an open mic night in Lansing. We lived in Grand Rapids, but the closest open mic night at that time was at Connections in Lansing, which is no longer open. And you had to call on Monday ahead at noon, and they had 3 5-minute spots before the show on Wednesday, and try to get one of those, and you go down there if you got one, and give it a try. So,
do you still love it?
I love it. Absolutely love it. Of all the things I've done, with the acting jobs I've done, all kinds of things like that, there's still nothing like the intimacy with the crowd, the immediacy of the feedback, and knowing, You know, the beautiful thing about stand-up is that it is the purest form of justice that there is in entertainment, because you're not going to get off stage and go, boy, I think they liked me. They either
You're
did or they
gonna know,
didn't.
yeah.
You know.
It's one way or the other. And I love making a room full of strangers laugh. It's fun. You know, just the fact that because when they're laughing at you, you understand that there's a commonality amongst everybody. I mean, they're laughing at the same kind of things that I'm thinking about. So I'm very fortunate in that I have a job like that even after all these years, when you get on stage and you have a great show, there's just nothing like it. I still love it. So, yeah.
You pick up any hobbies during the pandemic?
Boy, no, not really.
There's all kinds of people like chasing bucket list things right now. Read a lot of stuff about that right now.
No, not well. I guess starting the podcast.
Yeah.
That could be.
Yeah.
I mean, that was came out of the fact that I'm not going on the road. I got to do something. So that was probably the biggest thing.
Yeah. He's smoking meats.
Yep.
That sounded accusatory.
That's not a euphemism. That's actual.
Yeah. I mean, it was sort of accusatory because I am the victim, because we are roommates. I am the victim of his.
Well, the hand
smoked
came across.
meats.
He's smoking
He's
meats.
smoking
Like
meats.
he's not supposed to be.
I started curing and smoking my own bacon,
Okay.
which is fantastic. It's the best thing.
Is it hard to do?
No. And it's a lengthy process. It's like
Yeah, can
just
you
over
salt
a
it
week.
and everything, or is that what do you do? You salt it and
Salt it, kind of do a dry brine,
okay.
and let it sit in the refrigerator for a week, and then smoke it for 3-4 hours. And it's the best thing.
bacon that I've ever had. If you didn't have to drive to Grand Rapids, I would send some home with you. But I said, because it's bacon form that he cuts thinner, and then pork belly, which is a little thicker slices.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's honestly the secret ingredient to whatever you're making. Dice it up and cook it in, and that goes in everything. And I'm happy you picked up that hobby.
Very nice.
Happy you picked up that hobby. So no, the podcast Idioms is out now. I am honestly, I told him before, and I told you before, dude. Everything you put on the internet is good.
Well, thank you.
Everything you put on the internet is good. The Pillars series that you did with your friend who had passed away, was his name
Kevin Yan. Yep.
was great. And I told him multiple. I'm like, this is one of the best damn podcasts that I've seen in a long time. And he
Thank
watched
you.
it and he agreed. It's like, it's really well written. The sidecar sessions that you do is great, and that's all on
I've been able
YouTube
to
too.
do those this summer with the pandemic. People
Yeah.
are nervous about being close. So, but yeah, I love doing that. I've got a Ural CT sidecar motorcycle. Do a little talk show on that with my guest in the sidecar. But yeah, and if people want to listen to Idioms, I put it out on Facebook in video form every Tuesday and Friday, and then you can subscribe to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Google Podcasts. It's on all those.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What else you got going on that you want to get out?
Well, boy, I just I'm working on. Actually, that's why I was in town. I told you I'm working on a couple ideas. I got to keep kind of quiet, but a couple television show ideas that are maybe going to get some traction once this pandemic thing is over and people start, wanting to spend money. Some studios want to start spending some money again, but I got a couple things. I'm in that stage of life where, as I said, I still love doing stand up. I love getting in front of a crowd. I'm not as big a fan of the travel as I used to be,
I bet, yeah.
That gets a little
Yeah.
old. So I still want to be able to do stand-up, but I also kind of want to start channeling some creative ideas into something where even if I'm kind of behind the scenes doing some writing or producing and things like that, I wouldn't mind moving some things into that area as well. And there's maybe a chance in the next year or so that could happen.
What do you? What's the best way to ask this question? Like, what gets you feeling creative and gets you in the mode, or I want to sit down and I want to start writing or start brainstorming on whatever, just get a spark and sit down and do it?
I do. I think like this one main idea that I had a meeting about today is something that it just kind of came to me where I thought, I try to think about shows that I would like to watch.
Yeah.
And that was really the germination of this particular idea. And I thought it combines 3 or 4 different elements that can kind of be mashed into one show that I think will cover a broad spectrum of an audience, because it's got this for these kind of people, it's got this for those kind of people, it's got that for these kind of people. So I do that. I think about What's something I would like to watch, and I try to think of an idea that would go along with that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to get out before I get you out here? It's a quick one today.
Well, I'll tell you, we're in at home. We're in a transitionary phase because my kids were out of the house. Then one of them was back for her last semester of college because of the pandemic. She went to Michigan, but she spent her last semester at home. But now she's out of the house working a job in the Detroit area. And then my oldest one has moved back in with us. So she's working a job in Grand Rapids, and she's going to do that for a little bit before she finds her own apartment and stay with us. So basically, for about 2 or 3 years, I could poop with the door open.
Yeah.
I can no longer do that. Door's closed again.
It's a bummer.
Can't
I feel you.
Yeah.
I feel you.
Can't walk around naked. Nothing. So life's changed.
I wouldn't do that anyway.
I have panic attacks if I'm at home and I'm walking around naked. I'm for sure somebody's gonna walk into this house. I don't whatever scenario. I don't care if it's
Is this a
11 o'clock at
neighborhood
night.
like that? People just walk in.
No, no,
not to date.
Thankfully, no.
You never know. There are some real weirdos walking around, and you can tell.
Yeah.
Weirdos.
There's a few ranting madmen
Yeah.
that ride their bicycle past the house on
or
occasion.
just wandering around with their head down, carrying plastic bags of some mystery items.
Yeah.
Yeah. We lived because we became roommates probably 2 years ago. 2 years ago. But we lived in the country before.
Yeah.
We moved here, so we just have more room. And I loved not having neighbors.
Yeah.
Do you live in town?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On a cul-de-sac.
Okay.
Yeah.
Neighbors everywhere. I hate the idea. I hate the idea of not being able to pee outside.
Yeah.
That is.
Well, I do that at night in the backyard when I take the dog out.
I don't even dare do that here because there's.
You're right on the street.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bummer.
Probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah, no, you shouldn't. No.
Yeah.
And I've
I'm
discussed
amazed.
this
I'm amazed.
because he tried to experiment with that
Well,
once.
I'm amazed the thought even crossed your mind.
it was really dark. It was really rainy, and I'm standing under the awning in the garage. I'm like, nobody can see me. It's fine.
The garage that faces 2 houses.
Nobody's looking.
Dope.
Nobody was looking. Dave Dyer, it's a pleasure as always.
Thank you
to talk
very
to
much
you.
for having me. I appreciate it.
I know you wore a mask in, and I did sanitize, just so you know. Did sanitize the desk and the
Is that the
chairs and everything.
sanitizer right there? In the...
That is sanitizer.
right,
Help
yeah,
yourself
yeah.
on the way. On the way out.
I will.
Appreciate it, Dave.
Thank you,
Can't
guys.
thank you enough.
Thanks for
Thanks,
having
man.
me.